Thanks for the introduction, Cindy. I'll just tell you just a little bit more about myself. This is my family, my wife Bronwyn, our two children, Jaden and Amy. We actually have just moved to town in the last 6 months, so I actually live in Loxton now, but our farm is in a little place called Allawoona, about 30 kilometres south of Loxton in the Northern Mallee region of SA. I'm a third generation farmer, and in the last 15 years I've been part of a collaborative farm called Bullaburra, and in Bullaburra we've been cropping approximately 9,000 hectares of cereals and grain legumes in that time. When Cindy and Prue first, when Joe and Prue first approached me to talk to you today, they asked me to talk about farmer engagement, how to engage with farmers. Basically, what are you doing right? What things can you teach us about how to engage more effectively with farmers? And I said, well, what do you mean? Look, why are you asking me? And Joe said, well, you know, you've set up a very successful collaborative farm in Bullaburra, and you get to travel around Australia and all around the world telling people about farmer collaboration and how they can get engaged in it themselves. You've set up a successful online presence. You've got a Facebook page with Bullaburra that's got over 35,000 followers. You've got a Facebook group that's got 72,000 members. You've got YouTube clips that have been seen by over 1 million people. You're engaging and connecting with the movers and shakers in Australian agriculture. You've written plays which have been seen by thousands of people. You've written a dinner theatre production where the tickets sell out before, well, pretty much as soon as they go on sale. You've been creating work-life balance workshops around South Australia that sell out, which is a bit unusual for a mental health workshop. You've been doing videos online which people are engaging with. What are you doing differently that other people aren't that works? So I thought about that. And the only logical conclusion that I can come up with is that I've got no idea. I really don't know what I am doing half the time. I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not an expert at anything. I left school at year 10. I don't have a tertiary education. I've never been taught the principles of how you should educate or how you should teach. And as Joe Eady well knows, I suffer seriously from imposter syndrome and think that one day someone's just going to find me out and realise that actually I do know nothing about anything. But apparently I do know how to engage. And so in thinking about that, I've realised it's actually not about what you know. It's about who you are and about what it is that you actually stand for. So I was challenged to give you some tools today for you to go away with to be a part of your 20. So I'm going to put mine up right up front, and then we'll sort of break them down a little bit as we go along. Because these are, I guess, the tools, the philosophies, the values, the principles that I just live by in my life. And they're pretty basic, they're almost like motherhood statements, but they're the prism through which I pretty much operate in all that I do. So the first of these is don't let people tell you it can't be done. My whole life is about people saying, you can't do that. That's not going to work. I've faced that in pretty much everything I've done. In setting up a collaborative farm, we set up an international travel company from our farm that we operated for 10 years and sold out every tour that we ran internationally. But we're told that we couldn't do that. I was told that doing plays would never work. They would never engage with the community. that I'd never be able to get involved with industry involvement because I wasn't educated enough or didn't have the networks, that I'd never be successful in applying for a Nuffield scholarship. I was even told that I was not good enough to marry my wife. And I'm probably right, to be quite honest. It's probably the only one I think I did get right, but I've been very, very fortunate to have been married for 34 years. But don't tell me that it can't be done. But the reality is that anything is possible if you've got the right attitude, if you've got passion, if you've got the right people, if you've got skills. You can do anything you like if you put your mind to it. The second one, everyone's good at something. In fact, someone once said to me that every person is the best person in the world at something. You just got to find out what that thing is. In fact, if you want to be successful, all you have to do is be better than everyone in the world at something. It could be the most obscure thing, which is why people become famous. It's why people become successful. So the challenge is to find what is that thing that you are good at, but also to find that thing that other people are good at. And probably the thing that I will say that I actually do well and pride myself on is actually seeing skills and talents in other people that they may not even realise that they have themselves. And bringing that to the surface and encouraging it and resourcing it so that they can make a difference in their lives, but in other people's lives as well. It's a great way of engagement. There is good in everyone. I think it's a fundamental truth. There is good in all people. If you treat people as if they have good in them, then you will find that good. If you treat people as if they have bad in them, you will find the bad. There is good in all people. We have perceptions about people. We go in with those preconceptions. But I think we need to look at taking people on face value and starting from scratch. The next one is what I call the 3 times rule. The fact that you actually have to see, or you have to experience things in at least 3 different ways before it actually sinks in, before you've actually even seen it at all. I don't know about you, but I can watch a TV ad 100 times and still not know what it's for. It's just on in the background and you see it and it's just there. Then I'll hear the same ad on the radio and I recognise the ad, but I still don't know what it's for. Then I might see it on social media, or someone might mention it, or I see it in the print media for the 3rd time or the 4th time, and suddenly I go, it's for Mazda. Zoom, zoom. Never ever connected the dots before that time. We all do that. It was just at the time we'd started Bullabarra. Been doing the plays, the Littletown plays for about 8 years. And I got this email and it basically said, "Dear John, I have it on good authority that you are the best playwright in the Lutheran Church of Australia. Would you like to collaborate with me to write some skits for a project that I'm doing in Australia and the US?" Well, I just laughed. Left it. I later found out that Rich Melheim was Dr. Rich Melheim, who's an internationally renowned childhood educator and neurologist. And the very short version of a very long story is that 5 weeks later, he had flown me to the US, and I spent 10 days with him locked in a 8-bedroom, 5-bathroom chalet overlooking Aspen, Colorado, where I wrote skits for 10 days while he did cartooning. Don't tell me it can't be done. About 12 months after that, Rich and his team of educators came to Australia, and they did a tour of Australia with speaking conferences in every capital city. So I invited Rich and his team to come to Loxton to get out of the cities and chase some wildlife and eat some kangaroo on the barbecue and do all the great Aussie things. And while they were in Loxton, I organised for them to do a workshop or run a full day's workshop in our local primary school, which they were really pleased to do. So the idea was that they'd come into the primary school and they would, each of the team would go into every one of the classrooms during the day and spend an hour and a half or so working with each class. And then at the end of the day, they'd put on a concert where each class would do a skit, and then all the school would be together and all the parents would come in, and it was going to be this great big thing. So as we were talking about it that morning, the principal said, this is going to be fantastic, I'm so looking forward to it, but let's leave the Year 7 boys out. Because the Year 7 boys class is just a disaster. Like, the teachers are just frazzled by them. They just do not engage. If they know they've got an American that they can torment, they are going to just have a field day. So we'll just put them to one side. And Rich said, give them to me. I'll have a crack at them. So Rich goes off to this Year 7 class, and I followed him in thinking, oh, this will be fun. And he gets up in front of the class and he starts talking to them, and they just didn't want a part of it. They just were not engaged at all. They were talking, they were sniggering, they started throwing stuff, they were getting rowdier, they were mucking about, and I'm thinking, oh, this is great. So after a while, Rich gets up and he picks up a whiteboard marker and he goes up to the whiteboard, and he's a cartoonist, right? So he draws this fantastic cartoon image of Bart Simpson. And it's magnificent. And everyone goes, whoa, they sort of stopped talking. And he said, who's this? It's Bart Simpson. Yep. He says, well, one of my best friends is the lead animator for The Simpsons in Hollywood. So I do stuff with him all the time. So he's taught me how he draws all the Simpsons characters with really simple strokes. Do you want me to show you how to draw Bart? Oh, yeah. So he's up there, right, just do this stroke, and you do that stroke, and and that's Bart. Now you do it. Well, then someone says, can we do Homer? Let's do Homer. About half an hour later, the principal walks into the class, and there's paper everywhere with Simpsons characters. There's Mr. Burns, there's Lisa, there's Marge, and everyone. There's stuff on the walls, there's the Simpsons stuff, and the class is just besotted. The principal said, this is a bit weird. Then Rich changed tact and took them on the rest of the journey. At the end of the day, those Year 7 boys performed for the whole school. And the principal was standing there with his jaw on the floor, but he said to me after, they were singing the school song. They don't ever sing the school song. And he said to Rich, what did you do? He said, I just opened the kid before I opened the book. You've got to find a way to connect before you can engage. You've got to find a way to invite people in, or have them invite you in, before you can actually become a part of their lives and influence them. In 1999, I come up with this really crazy idea. I haven't got any pictures to show you now, but I come up with this really crazy idea, especially looking back, to create a Christmas production in Loxton. I'll tell you why it was crazy, because it was a bit of a vision. I spoke to a few people. Oh, well done. They came on side. Oh, it's not up there yet. They basically came on side with me. And then I wanted to do it in St. Peter's Lutheran Church, which is the biggest church in Loxton, which is my church. And I went to the church's AGM, which is all full of old people. And I was about 30 at the time. So I went to the AGM of St. Peter's, and I stood up before them and said, I want to do a Christmas production here in Loxton. But I'm not going to do it unless it's good. We're going to have quality actors. We're going to have a fantastic musicians. We're going to have a 30-person choir. We're going to have lights. We're going to have sound. It's going to be all over the TV and all over the radio. Sets, props, costumes. People are going to come from far and wide to see this production. And it's going to be so good that it's going to be as good as a Loxton High School musical, which was renowned as being the best musical in the state. And so good that the director of the Loxton High School musical is going to one day come clamouring to me to want to direct it. And they laughed at me. I said, well, that's not going to work, John. Why? We'd never done anything like that before. We had no drama group within the church. The only musicians was the two people who played the organ. We had no choir, we had no costumes, we had no sets. We had no light or sound equipment at all in the church. We had no one who could do anything. And the other thing I said to him was, oh, and by the way, I need about $2,000 to make it work. This is in 1999. And they just said, yeah, okay, we don't have any money. But if you can find $2,000, then you can use the church. Basically, go nuts. The next day, I got a call from someone at the church saying, someone has just come in and given us an anonymous $2,000 donation. Get on with it. So we did. I pulled together some people who could act. I found a musical director. She put together some musicians. She pulled together a 30-person choir. I got some people who could build some sets. We got some people who could sew that made some costumes. I got a guy who could take photographs. We got some people who could do some media. We went and hired some light and sound equipment from a local theatre. We found some people that we could train up to do lights and sound. We only had 6 speaking parts in that first production because we only had 6 microphones. So only 6 people could speak. We decided to do 3 shows over 3 weekends in the 3 Friday nights leading up to Christmas in 1999. And on the night of the full dress rehearsal, which was just prior to night 1, I pulled all the cast and crew together and I said to them, look, the church holds 400 people. It's a 20-minute production. If more people turn up than we can fit into church, would you do a second show? What I didn't realise is that they had a car park meeting after I left where they collectively thought I had gone stark raving mad. Because no one expected more than potentially 100 people to turn up. The first night come around, I can go back a couple now. The first night come around and 300 people turned up. The second night, 700 turned up, and we had to do a second show. The third night, 1,000 people turned up. We did 2 shows, and we turned 200 people away. That led to, over the next 20 years, I wrote and directed 14 productions for Loxton. They went from a 20-minute play to becoming up to a 2-hour production. One year we had 17 coaches come from Adelaide, 3 hours away. Up to 150 people involved in the plays at any one time. Seen by over 40,000 people in that time. Don't tell me that it can't be done. It was also, the 3 times rule about people seeing things in three or plus different ways. And also opening the kit before you open the book. In 2009, it was a drought year in Loxton. It was also not only a drought year for broadacre cropping, it was also a drought in horticulture. The river had almost dried up, as you kind of know up through here as well. Extreme water restrictions in place, and the whole community was very downcast. And I had the principal of the Lutheran school in Loxton come to me and say, John, I'm really concerned that everyone in the town is not feeling real great. Wouldn't it be great if we could hold an event in Loxton where we brought a lot of the community together to, we'll call it a fundraiser, but it's just an opportunity to get together and have a good time. Just to laugh and celebrate, what agriculture is all about. So, like a glutton for punishment, I said, that's a good idea. So I pulled together my Little Town Productions team, and we created a night called If Farmers Ruled the World. And basically the whole premise of If Farmers Ruled the World was, imagine what life would be like if the whole world was ruled and run by farmers. So I ran it kind of David Letterman style. We had a band that was doing parody songs and stuff like Rod Stewart's Iron Sailing becomes Iron Spraying, that kind of thing. And we had video links, video crosses to like the local police station, talking about how things are different now that we have, the compulsory waving rule and all this sort of stuff, to crossing to the doctors, the hospital, and talking to doctors about the type of vaccinations and haircuts you now had to have and all this sort of stuff, and local politicians as well. And we had a 3-course meal that everybody ate as well. And on each table, we had the farmer's toolkit. So we had gaffer tape, baling twine, fencing wire, and cable ties. And then people were making stuff very competitively, and we had competitions of the type of things you can make with just those 4 things at the tables. It was the most fantastic night. I've never laughed so hard in my life. People say the same. Looking back, people still talk about it today. And people keep saying, when are we going to do another Farmers? When are we going to do another Farmers? Because it made everybody feel really good. And I always wanted to do that and never again got the opportunity. Flick ahead to 2021. We were doing Little Town Productions every 2 years at this point. And 2021 was a Little Town year. But we couldn't do it because it was COVID. Everything about how we ran a Little Town production just wouldn't work in a COVID environment. So of course everyone said, well, we can't do it. It can't be done. Don't tell me it can't be done. We talked about it and said, well, one thing we could potentially do would be a dinner theatre production where everyone is, seated and sitting in an environment that met the COVID rules. This actually meant that I could actually re-explore the If Farmers Ruled the World approach, because that's what we had done 10 years previously. So I had this vision of something I really wanted to do. I'd just been through 3 years of drought, 17 to 19, where we'd been severely affected by drought, and I personally had suffered from some of the mental anguish of going through drought as well. And so I was really keen to create a production in which there was mental health, positive mental health and wellbeing messaging that could come through it. And so we created Kick Off Your Boots. So as I kind of work, I went and found all the quality actors I knew that I needed, had a concept in mind, found someone to put together a band. He put together all the musicians, we built a set, or started building a set, got the caterers, we organised everything. The only thing I didn't have was a script for it. That's always the last thing that happens to me, but that's fine. But I was really conscious that I had to get the messaging and the language right if we're going to do mental health and wellbeing messaging in a way that we can engage with the audience. And I just started in my role with GPSA at the time, so I was put onto a lady called Dr. Kate Gunn, now Associate Professor Kate Gunn, who's at the Rural Health Division of UniSA and the founder of ifarmwell. And I rang Kate and told her my grand idea, and she was really nice and really supportive. And I got off the phone, I thought, well, that went well. She tells the story on the other end of that better than what I can. She got off the phone and her husband said, who was that? Some farmer who's called up. Reckons he's going to write a play and incorporate mental health and wellbeing messaging and people are going to come. Like that's going to happen. The irony of that is that Kate Gunn's now one of my best friends and I actually work for ifarmwell 2 days a week as their creative director. But we put the thing together. We decided we were going to do 3 dinners of 170 each. Now, Loxton's not a very big town. It's like about 4,000 people. 3 dinners of 170 each. And we put the tickets out 8 weeks before, a bit adventurously, and it completely sold out in 2 weeks. 6 weeks before the event happened. I was about 2/3 of the way through the script as it happened, and we were completely sold out. Jumping ahead to year 2, we did it again, slightly revised production, and we decided to do 5 shows in 2022 of 180 each, so 900 people. We put the tickets out 6 weeks before, and we sold 95% of them in 72 hours. So we're a bit scared about this year, because we're about to do it again. So why did it work? What is it about Kick Off Your Boots that worked as far as engagement goes? Well, when I first spoke to Kate Gunn on the phone that first time when her husband laughed at me, I said to Kate, so how do you engage with farmers about mental health and wellbeing? What are the things that you can do to connect with farmers so that they will even listen to you? And she said, well, the research shows that the ways that best connect with farmers is through A, humour, B, music, C, food. That's how you reach farmers. I thought, okay, we've ticked those 3 boxes. The 3 times rule. You've got to open the kid before you open the book. You open the kid with food. You open the kid with music. You open the kid with humour. And once you've got the kid opened, you go in there and you hit them with the message. So Kick Off Your Boots was the story of the Connor family. Jack Connor, that was me, my wife Jenna. We were very traditional farmers, very much fixated on preserving the integrity and heritage of the family farm, preserving the generations gone past and looking to the future. Had a son, Charlie. Charlie was the heir apparent to the farm, so everything's directed towards Charlie. He had other interests as well, like he loved to write music, he loved to do sketching and all this type of stuff, but it was not encouraged at all by his parents because it's farm first, second, third, fourth and fifth. They had a daughter, whose name's Zoe, and Zoe, all she wanted to do was be a farmer. There's nothing else that she wanted in life, but she had no pathway to that farm. In Dad's opinion, Dad would say, you want to be a farmer? You marry a farmer. It's the only pathway that she had. And then along comes a left-wing, greeny, vegetarian journalist from the city who gets sent up from Melbourne as a punishment to write a story on agriculture. and she falls in love with the son and completely turns their entire world upside down. We had a band and we're doing parody music. Some of you would have watched The Link, maybe. The two of you that have, that's fine. And there's stuff in there like, Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 becomes I don't work 9 to 5, that type of thing. And the whole thing wrapped around a dinner where you're sitting at a table with people across from you that you're talking with as well. The 3 times rule. Hearing it, tasting it, feeling it, laughing, opening the kid before you're opening the book. Everyone that was involved with Kick Off Your Boots, I love to take everyone aside and say, what are you good at? Oh, I'm only good at this. Right, how can we use that? Because you're probably the best person in the world at that, so let's incorporate that in it somewhere so the whole thing gets shaped by the people that are in it. We don't make the production and then put the people in it, we get the people and then we build something from the people that we actually have. I don't know what my time is, so I'm going to leave it at that, I think, at this point in time, because I know we got to explore and ask some more questions later. But I'll just jump back to, we've also gone and done a number of other things, including a Vocal Locals campaign in our community and the online videos which come out to Kick Off Your Boots. But I want to leave you with those principles again. Don't let people tell you it can't be done. Everyone is good at something. Find out whether, I'd like to talk to you more about that if we get a chance a bit later on. There is good in everyone. Find that good. The 3 times rule, we have to experience things in 3 different ways before it even exists. And that big one, you've got to open the kid before you open the book. I'll leave you with that and I look forward to seeing where we go. Thanks.